May I have your attention, please? Good evening.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. We thank you for tuning in and hope you enjoy another exciting episode of our show.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. It's the six-man Dean Geronimo, and as always, I'm in the studio from NJ to NC with my right-hand man, Mark Lee. So, Mark, rewind one time and tell you what you did last time.
On Friday, I believe it was Friday, we were celebrating his birthday, so that was going on. And then on Saturday, there was a salute to Max Roach, the legendary jazz artist. So that was really good. Some musicians, I think that they were all connected to North Carolina Central University, either going through the graduate program or might have already graduated from that program. But I tell you, those musicians rocked the house. They did a great job of rocking the house and definitely honoring Max Roach. They also honored some other legends that have passed on as well, because during the course of that, they honored Jimmy Heath as well as Roy Hargrove, two other great jazz artists that have passed away in the not too distant future. Not too distant past. So they've been not that long gone from us. So they honored them as well. So definitely, it was definitely some real good music that was happening on that particular evening. So definitely enjoyed myself checking that activity out. So, we've always got things going on at the center. As a matter of fact, one day that I was over there, they also had some youth poets competing, and those poets were just actually amazing. But what they were doing is they were not reciting poems that they wrote themselves. They were actually honoring and performing the poets of some great legends like Lewis Carroll, Phyllis Wheatley, Langston Hughes. So it was a chance for them to interpret this, but in their own way, in their own style. And the one that won it definitely deserved the victory. It was a young lady that won it, and she definitely deserved that victory. But, instead of doing original work, they were doing works of other more famous poets and definitely brought it to the flavor. And I think the people that were there really enjoyed themselves. Of course, like everybody else around the country, we're all mourning the loss of Kobe Bryant. There was just an amazing tragedy that happened on yesterday, and we're all definitely touched by that in a lot of different ways. It's just bad enough that Kobe, who was definitely a true legend in the NBA, passed away in that helicopter crash. But for his daughter to be taken away as well is definitely touching a lot of people's hearts, because, the young lady looked like she had a bright future on the basketball court ahead of her. It looked like she was definitely following in her footsteps of her father. As a matter of fact, I was reading one article where I think somebody was trying to, push on him to have a boy since he had all girls. And that particular one, the one that passed away, was basically like, look, I can handle this. I can follow in the tradition, and I can do just as well in terms of continuing the legacy and things of that nature. So, kind of raising a daughter like that was going to try to, take it to that kind of level at the WNBA or whatever she might have decided to do it. She might have even been one of those people that was going to break all kinds of boundaries and maybe even come to play with the boys or whatever. There's really no telling where that could have gone. But it was just a tragedy to see that will not come to fruition whatsoever. And, and all the other people that were perished in that flight that went down. Because, from what I'm reading, a lot of those other young ladies were also very gifted basketball players. At least two of them were, and there were some gifted coaches that were on there, not just Kobe, who has also been doing some coaching, as well as the pilot, who apparently has one that Kobe really trusted to handle that kind of plane and things of that nature. I think they're still trying to figure out, why the plane went down, what role fog might have had in it, and different things of that nature. But it was just a total tragedy, and you could tell that it impacted the sports world. You're seeing comments coming from NFL players, NBA players, folks that are in the golf world. We even saw how it impacted the folks that were there being honored at the Grammys. So it definitely, you could see that was going on. I did watch some of the Grammys last night, and you could definitely see where there were some people that were, had their jersey of Kobe on, his number on, or maybe setting off to the side as one of the performers did, and things of that nature. So you could definitely see that it impacted them as well. So, like I said, it was a definite tragedy. I don't know if you checked the Grammys out. I thought the Grammys, I know some people don't like the Grammys because they wonder where the good music has gone. But actually, I was actually surprised.
Doesn't come on the Grammys.
That is true. A lot of the good music does not come on the Grammys, but North Carolina was represented. J. Cole, I believe, won a Grammy for one of his things and everything. And, of course, he's got some North Carolina ties. And there were some others with North Carolina ties. Rihanna, trying to remember her, the Giddens, I believe it is. But she's a folk singer, and she's got North Carolina ties. Of course, Shirley Caesar's always at the Grammy. So there were some North Carolina ties there, though. So definitely my state was represented there in the Grammys. I'm still trying to figure out where this young lady that won all these awards came from and everything, because I try to follow some of our pop culture and things of that nature, but I don't know where this lady came from. I mean, definitely seems to have a following and definitely a great fan base, but I must be missing her music, because I think her name is Billie Eilish or something like that, and her brother is part of the musicians.
Okay.
I mean, part of his crew, part of her crew, but she won, I think, 4 or 5. And like I said, definitely has a strong fan base. I did enjoy the fact that I think on maybe their 3rd awards that they got, they talked about the fact that they did not even create the music thinking that they would win in a Grammy, and that they kind of like gave encouragement to others that might be recording music in the basement of their house or in their house, driving the parents crazy. And it was basically like, look, you keep going at it, you keep hitting the woodshed, you keep doing your thing. You too might be up here like my young sister and I, because it was actually the older brother, who I think is either 21 or 22. I think the sister that won most of those awards is like around 18. But basically they were saying that, look, if you go ahead and you put your time in and, try to write something, because I think they said they weren't even necessarily trying to write an award-winning song. They were just writing about bad guys and depression and I think suicide and things of that nature. But they were writing about these kind of sad topics. But, it definitely caught the attention of, I guess, those Grammy voters and things of that nature. And they basically were encouraging others to, follow your dreams. And that's something that I think even Kobe has, as I've read about some of the things that he was telling people to do. He was telling people to follow their dreams. So I think that those kind of encouraging messages, both from the legendary Kobe Bryant as well as these young upstart musicians, was definitely something that needed to be heard. And the longtime producer of the Grammys, I think he steps down this year. I think this was his last year of doing it, and he's done it for decades, and I do mean decades. He kind of like used his time to have a lot of great musicians out of the whole concept that we've actually talked about on this program, the concept of needing music education and the importance of music education to developing our child's growth mentality, to developing their critical thinking and things of that nature. And he had some very powerful singers that were up there, some that had performed in the past and had been out there as well. But then there were some new-timers. I mean, he had the Debbie Allen dancers. I don't know whether they've been there before, but he definitely had Missy Copeland, and they definitely flashed it. That was her first time performing at the Grammys. And they had a number of other artists, some that folks would have recognized from having made past Grammy appearances, and some that were some new folks. But basically the whole thing was they did one of the songs from the hit TV show and the hit movie Fame, and that particular song is about music education and about pursuing your dreams as well. So that was definitely good to see that conversation taking place and things of that nature. So definitely it was enjoyable that happened, and there were a couple of other powerful moments that I did see as well. I, too, have gotten a little bit away from the award shows, not just the Grammys, but the Oscars and some of the other ones. Used to be into them a lot more than I am now. Part of that is my own busy schedule, but if I do catch them, I do like it when they use it as a platform to make statements. So when Guy Clark, I believe it is, or Gary Clark it is, the jazz musician, basically was telling folks that are part of that Make America Great crowd that this is our country as well, and he made that statement in his performance. I could definitely relate to what he was saying, because he was basically like saying, look, you talking about I need to be going back to where you think I'm from or whatever, but I was actually born here as well. I've done a lot, and my ancestors have done a lot to make this a great country, so you don't need to be telling me to go back anywhere. So I thought that was a very powerful statement that Gary Clark used the Grammys as a opportunity to make. One of the other singers was more of a pop singer, Demi. She used it to make a statement about, when you're dealing with things like suicide and those kind of issues and going to get help and things of that nature. So there was definitely some moments in the Grammys of what I saw where they used the Grammys for what I personally do not mind them using it for. I know some people, they get upset when they see folks doing that. They think that they shouldn't soapbox or things of that nature. But I am not one that believes in that. I think that if you've got that kind of platform, that you have the right to use that platform to make statements, particularly positive statements among those of us that consider ourselves progressive, when so much of the reactionary and the right-wing people are tweeting and making statements on a regular basis that are opposite of what the truth is. So I had no problem whatsoever with Gary Clark Jr. making that statement with his song, This Land Is Our Land as well, is basically what the song is called. So he definitely rocked it. And like I said, there were a couple of moments like that of the time that I saw it. I did not see the whole thing. Probably saw maybe a good half to a third of the Grammys. But what I saw, I thought that was their right to make those kind of statements, and I was just glad to see them do that.
You know what? The question is, when was this country ever great? So when you say make it great again, make it greater for who? You know what I mean? Like, I'll be damned if you try to make it like how it was when my parents came up doing the civil rights movement. We ain't about that life. You can catch these hands, and you can catch something else too if you want to. We're not going to play those games. And, you got people sitting outside waiting to see Chump, and they staying overnight out in the cold. I hope it hit cold blue levels, dog. I mean, I ain't even taking it back. But we got somebody at the door, man. We're going to bring them in just 1 second. Hey, y'all, it's Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
The old Renaissance is the new Renaissance, standing on tradition while embracing the spirit of distinction. This is the Harlem Brewing Company. Uniquely crafted beer brewed to deliver a taste, a sound, and a feeling that can only be described in one way, Harlem style. So come and take a trip on the A train with our Harlem Sugar Hill Golden Ale and our Harlem Renaissance Whiskey, the neighborhood original.
All right, y'all, and we are back. Caller, you are now on Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. Tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Garrett Davis. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Garrett. How you doing, Garrett?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing very good. Garrett Davis is a longtime friend of mine, and I just wanted Garrett to come on the show and talk about the amazing work that he has been doing. We talk about folks that have done some great work in our community. Garrett Davis is a North Carolina-based artist in terms of being a playwright. I personally think that he's just as good, if not better, than Tyler, but that's just my own personal bias since I knew Garrett when he was a youngster. My folks, as I've referred to on this show a number of times, had a radio station, and Garrett was actually getting his feet wet during the time that we had that radio station going on there in Warren County. But he has definitely made a name in and of his own right, doing some great work with great theater, and I would just consider it great theater. Like I said, a lot of people may try to put it in the same category as Tyler's and others and just call it great gospel theater, but I just think it's great theater. And, while I am not always the fan of gospel theater that is a little bit kind of canned or that has too many of the stereotypes, I think that Garrett does a point of trying not to do that kind, the more stereotypical type, and he definitely gets some very positive messages out in what he says and things of that nature. Yes, he may be using the gospel as part of the way that he does it, but he's definitely still putting out a great and positive word, and that's part of the reason that I want to invite Garrett onto the show on this particular evening, because, like I said, he's definitely been somebody that I have had a great deal of respect for out of the theater community. So, Garrett, that's a little bit about my spiel on you and our connection from back in the Warrington days. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your career and things of that nature? Oh, one other thing I do want to mention just really quickly, since we're talking about the VSP days and those things, I will say that it was very surreal. I was talking about the Grammys, and, every year they do